Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team. That's right, high quality Bruins team with high quality prospects. I really like this draft. We're going to talk about the draft. Real quick, some housekeeping things before we get there. I plan on putting a free agency video out today. That did not happen because our day got railroaded by some stuff, some health concern stuff, but everything's fine now. Yay for American medicine that doesn't actually tell you what's wrong. I'm kidding, it's fine. So we didn't get most of the day to actually do this stuff, but obviously we'll do a bunch of free agency videos. It just seems like now it's going to be much more reactive than it would have been proactive. I'm going to be in Boston. We're flying out tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. I'll be there the week for the development camp. We're going to go over these draft picks now, but I'm going to have a lot more insight once I actually get to see them work on the ice a little bit. So we're going to talk a lot about them in this coming week. On Tuesday, July 2nd, I want to say that's correct, we will be hanging out at July 1st. There you go. July 1st. We'll be hanging out at Roxy's bar, Roxy's arcade. So if anyone wants to come out and say hello, please do. And then the short shift, all three of us will be at Dev Camp on the 2nd altogether as well, if you want to come out. Of course, any other day, I'll be at the Dev Camp through the week. So just let me know, stop by, say hello. I'd love to see you. I think that's pretty much all of the housekeeping stuff. How do you feel about the draft? I think if you were to summarize this draft, you would kind of just say offensive upside. They took some swings. I think they jumped ahead a couple rounds for some of these picks. I think that's classic Sweeney. But overall, there's going to be a couple players that are absolutely worthy of kind of keeping an eye on. None bigger than number 7 overall, James Hagens. Lefty, center, 5'10" and a half-ish. About 180 pounds, although at the draft he said he's up to 190, 18 years old. This is the part of the draft where things got really interesting, where we were wondering, okay, who's actually going here? But with Hagens falling to us, with Martone and Frondell and Martin, all going before that 7th overall, Hagens was right there. It sounds like the Islanders tried to trade up for it based on reports that came out after, and Sweeney, because Hagens was there, said, no, this is our guy. I think that was a smart decision. I think 16 and 17, you don't find a potential long-term 1C, which is what we desperately need. I know there are people who like to talk about his size. The guy isn't 5'6", 150. He's a little on the smaller size for an NHL center. There's also guys his size and smaller that make an impact hugely at the NHL level. I'm not worried about it. His talent is absurd, to say the least. I think that because of the year he had in his draft year, which was his first year at BC, where he was only a point per game as a freshman, and oftentimes deferred to two established rising NHL prospects on his team who had seniority and all that good stuff over him, I'm not worried at all. I know we talked last time when we talked about what we were going to do with the 7th overall, and we talked about how it's not great for a player of Hagen's size to not really impress in his draft year. It's still an impressive year, right? It's a point per game on a very good BC team. I feel very, very comfortable with this. I can't believe he fell to 7. He was considered a number 1 overall pick going into the year. This is awesome. And from what I've read, a lot of people are kind of like, I bet when we do the redraft of this in a couple of years, Hagens goes higher. There's no reason to be upset about this. He's insanely clever with all of his movements offensively and defensively. He can puck handle in any situation. He can get out of a phone booth with a puck and 3 other men on top of him. He is tremendously skilled. He has a nice shot. He has awesome vision. There's just nothing to dislike about this pick. I know one of the knocks you're going to see on him besides his size is that he will stick to the outside sometimes. Again, not a concern to me because he controls the game from those outside portions and then attacks inside ice when it makes sense to do so. He doesn't park himself in the slot Why would he? That's not where his skill set lies. His vision allows him to get the puck to players who are better suited to finish the play, and he's able to beat a goalie from distance. Nothing to dislike about this pick. Most of you probably already know a good amount about Hagens, so we're not going to spend all that much time on him. Also, we spoke about him a lot in the last video. Let's talk about a couple of these other players that were drafted. And the next player off the board for the Bruins was number 51 overall in the second round. It's William Moore, 6'2", 180 pounds, left shot center. I'm going to stop saying left shot because every single player in this draft is a left shot center. Not a left shot center, just a left shot. I don't know why I said center there. Depending on who you trust as far as ranking prospects go, Moore was ranked somewhere between the mid-20s, which would make him an absolute steal at 51, and the early 90s, which would make him a reach. If you've been a listener on this channel for a long time, you know that there's one thing I really, really love, and that is a cerebral hockey player. High IQ. Someone who can dissect the different facets of the game and will make strong decisions throughout. There may not be a player in this draft who is as technically smart as William Moore. That's how high I think of his actual hockey IQ. You'll see a bunch of stories about how he won an international competition playing the piano, and he performed at Carnegie Hall at just 10 years old. So he's like book smart too. But on the ice, coaches rave about his intelligence. He's a player who is prepared to face the opponents he faces, who grasps the techniques and the systems that his coaches want him to grasp. He understands every portion. He has decent hands, and he can fake out defenders to find open lanes to teammates in dangerous areas. That's kind of where he excels the most, is net front, behind the net. The closer to the scoring area, the harder he is to contain. The bad stuff, the red flags about his game, there are question marks about his effort, which is never something you want to see. He's inconsistent. He disappears for large stretches of games. He isn't physical, and although has the ability to shield the puck really well, he is pretty easily knocked off of the puck when trying to possess past defensemen, particularly ones who are looking to make contact. He's a technically sound skater, but isn't explosive enough to break away from defenders and gets pinched into dead ice too often. Most projections put him middle six role player-ish who can be dangerous when paired with a line-driving talent. I think there's a lot to dissect about this, though, because when it comes to high IQ players, like we'll talk about how much I love Don's Lockmells, right? And he's going to the AHL this year, looked really good in his few games in the AHL last year. There are things about Lockmells' game that match the IQ that really excite me. His ability to shift defenders with head fakes and shoulder fakes and hip twists and just the way he moves his eyes to move the coverage around him. He knows how that's going to impact the game, allowing him to make his next play. Very much I'm seeing 2 or 3 steps ahead, and that goes across 200 feet. For William Moore, it is more of an overall understanding of how everything's going to move around him. I don't see as much of the shifting players around. We talked about his presence around the net and his ability to find teammates there or to make those open plays. But as far as 200 feet of that, as far as a transitional attack with that, I don't see it as much. I was afraid that some people would hear this and be like, wait, you don't love this guy, but you love Lockmells. What's the big difference when it comes to the IQ thing? And it's not that I don't like Moore. I think he's a really interesting prospect who has a top 6 ceiling. Truly has a top 6 ceiling. It's just there's a lot of red flags, and as soon as you start bringing up effort, and when everyone brings up effort, I get concerned. I don't love leaning on a prospect who we don't know if he cares, right? If he doesn't have that kind of competitiveness to him. Disappearing throughout games reminds me of like a Brett Harrison type who nasty shot, but just disappears. The good news about this, though, is he played for the U.S. National U18 team last year, and He played for a coach named Greg Moore. This guy got torched by watchers of that team. Scouts who have referred to that coach said that players underneath him either stagnate or they get worse. William Moore will be a project. He'll be a couple of years out from the league pretty easily. There are a lot of red flags, as we've already mentioned. But if that coach is actively submarining these players and is so frustrating to play for that this is why it looks like he's not giving a great effort, this is why he's not having the impact that you'd like to see, there's at least a comment to be made. That is about as abstract as it gets, though, and this is going off of scouting reports who are maybe trying to find a reason to like William Moore at a higher level. Maybe it's an excuse. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a reach. I think the red flags are pretty intense. But all other coaches he's played for have said they've really loved him. They really love the way he digests the game, and I really like leaning on high hockey IQ. I think him coming up and playing at BC, you're going to see a lot of, will he actually care, or will his minutes shrink and shrink and shrink? Because I don't think you're going to survive on that team if you're not really putting the effort in. So definitely a lot of these guys are going to have really interesting first years to follow for sure. So I'm lukewarm on that pick. Let's go with that. Our other second round pick at number 61 overall is Liam Peterson. I'm really surprised by this pick. I know some scouts are really high on this guy. I think this is a reach. I think this is a guy that probably shouldn't have gone in the second round. He's 6'2", 170 pounds. Which side does he shoot from? Left. Left shot defenseman. I'm no professional scout. The reason I make these videos is for conversational topics. So the research I've done, sharing it with you and see what your thoughts are. Very few prospect rankings even had this guy on their board. Central Scouting ranked him as the 28th of EU skaters, which isn't high. We're not talking about a 28th ranked skater here. That's still way back. A couple other listings had him in the mid-hundreds. Corey Pronman of The Athletic had him in the mid-70s, which is as high as I think I saw him. But from what I've found from him and watching some of his highlights now, very smooth puck handler with deceptive mobility. When I say smooth, I don't mean talented puck handler. What he does with the puck is very simple but effective. Let's kind of say it that way. He does have a way of pivoting out of danger and finds ways to complete passes that would be unavailable to players without his balance and ability to kind of use that mobility to open up more options. Reports do show that he's effective at getting the puck to the net. I didn't see a lot of that from him, but that he's also going to make an impact in the defensive end as well. He definitely needs a lot of honing in the defensive end, though. He just has the abilities there with his kind of smoother and effective mobility. The red flags are more about kind of where they're drafting him. If he was a 4th or 5th round swing, I feel way more comfortable with this. But because he doesn't display a very high level of hockey IQ, the puck handling, again, is smooth, but not so good that he's going to beat players one-on-one on the blue line. His ceiling seems to be more of that of a responsible third-pairing guy who might give a little offense. Again, I think they're leaning more on his offensive abilities, even though he's not that great with the puck. I don't know. This is kind of a polarizing guy who has a lot of polarizing reports about him as well. He's an interesting player to keep an eye on. It just feels like you could have got him later, and the upside at very, very best is a second pairing guy, which, I mean, you love out of a late second round pick. It's just, I don't know. It's hard for me to see the whole package here with Peterson. I guess we'll see. Our third round pick at number 79 overall is by far the most entertaining pick of the draft besides Hagens. At number 7 overall, you better have an entertaining pick. At number 79, Cooper Simpson, 6 feet, 180 pounds, left wing, left shot. I'm just going to keep saying it now because I said I wouldn't. Like I said, maybe the most interesting pick of the draft, considering where he's picked. He's basically coming right out of high school, and he plays like it. He's selfish with the puck and tries to do too much. I'm not worried about that because when you're scoring more than a goal and a half per game, that's kind of the territory you're in for high school teams, right? He scored 49 goals in 31 games, which is really good. He's actually projected as one of the better snipers in the draft. He's got a beautiful shot, very effective at beating goaltenders. If you give him too much space, he's going to beat your goalie from a distance, and your coach is going to get pissed. If you try to close the gap, he's going to embarrass you with the puck, and then he's going to beat your goalie, and your coach is going to get pissed. A scout even said that they were shocked by how many teams didn't have this guy on their board at all. Another one said that he's top 6 or absolute bust. There's no in-between for him. That's a lot of good stuff, honestly. If you're telling me that a third-round pick is either top 6 or nothing at all, I feel good with that swing. I genuinely do. The red flags are basically 2 major things. One, how badly will his skating hold him back? He's not a great skater. Has a very rigid approach to it, very tall approach to it, even though he's only 6 feet. He just stands very upright with his skating. He might not even be an okay skater, honestly. He relies on his puck handling to go around defensemen because he can't do it with his skating. But that's going to get snuffed out at the next level. At high school, you can do that. But even just jumping up to college, the skaters in front of you are far, far, far better. You're not going to just be able to dangle past them because your explosiveness needs to be there too. If the skating doesn't improve, he's going to have to utilize his teammates more, which really brings us to number 2 on this. How will he adapt to being forced off the puck more? He's going to the University of North Dakota. He'll play with Will Zellers, another Bruins prospect that we got in that Coyle trade from Colorado. At the NCAA level, you need to utilize your teammates more. Duh. As soon as you get to competitive hockey levels, that's important. When your skating won't allow you to easily beat opponents one-on-one, it becomes even more important. If he adapts well and continues to hone what he's great at, he has a legitimate top 6 talent level. He can be a scoring threat at the NHL level. If he doesn't adapt, you'll never hear his name again. He'll just disappear. Someone will bring him up in trivia one day. Actually, I think it'll be too obscure for that. Cooper Simpson, though. At least for this upcoming year, and you're going to want to check in on Will Zellers too, because Will Zellers is that guy puts up an unbelievable amount of points in the USHL, and then this scout's saying it's not going to translate to the next level. It's just the way he scores his points, the way he is effective, it's not going to translate. Well, let's find out. They're both going to be going into their freshman years in college. Let's see what they've got. Now, remember, Letourneau went from, which wasn't even really a high school level, went from a very much lower league to BC and really, really bad year. I'm expecting Cooper Simpson to have a year that is very challenging for him in his first year at North Dakota. And then that second year, we'll see if he's adapting and getting where he needs to be. But there's a little piece of me that just really likes his shot so much and his ability to score that I'm kind of like, I know it was in high school. 49 goals in 31 games is really good. It's really good. I want to watch more of that. So I'm very hopeful about this pick. Easily one of the most entertaining picks, but that guy has a lot he's going to have to work through to hit that next level. And it's important things. It is important things. It's not just simply like, he's got to bulk up. No, he's got to learn how to work in a structured team, and his skating has to improve. At number 100 overall, we have Vosik Richards, or if you want to actually look him up on Elite Prospects, it's Vosik Richards. He is a defenseman, 183 pounds, 6'4". 183 seems a little light for 6'4", but again, should be bulking up. He shoots from the left. Good work. So who is he? I don't know. I'm serious. He changed his name to Richards. That's really all I've got. I never really heard of the prospect going into it. No one has much information on him. He played in Sweden last year and racked up a bunch of penalty minutes. He also had 21 points in 38 games. I will definitely have more information on him after watching him a little bit at development camp. I just don't have a lot. He wasn't listed on a lot of prospect rankings. There's supposed to be a lot of offensive upside there. From the people I've talked to, they're like, yeah, he's got a little pop offensively, gets the puck to the net. That's all I've got. I'm sorry. This was one that I just can't find more information on. that's what we're going to go with. So we're going to move on. At 133 overall, we have Cole Chandler, 6'1", 176 pounds, left shot, center. I forgot to do the bid again. That's okay. He is another player who is ranked much farther back or not ranked at all by most lists. He plays a very gritty, responsible game. He isn't afraid to mix it up. He's a good skater. He'll empty the bucket on every shift. He also makes pretty good reads with the puck. He finds his teammates in good positions. He's usually doing this through quick reads, though. He isn't going to be considered a creative player, a player who can have the puck on his stick and beat someone one-on-one. He's not dynamic offensively. He is a player who the second he has it, he finds his outlet and off it goes. There is value to that. He is very, very good defensively from what I've seen. He just doesn't give a ton on the offensive side. He doesn't have a very good shot and doesn't possess the puck. Like I said, handling skills don't really get him into dangerous areas. It does look like his ceiling is kind of a fourth line shutdown guy, which you're comfortable with in whatever the fifth round. So you're fine with this pick. If he's a shutdown guy, bottom sixer who can really bring some tenacity to the role, great. I'm usually more of like take a big swing on something here. I guess what they're really looking for is he does a lot of the little things so well that maybe he'll grow into a bigger role. But at the end of the day, this guy looks to have a ceiling of a fourth line guy. And speaking of kind of lower ceilings, 165, 6th round pick, Carill Yamalanov. Yamalanov. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's 6 feet tall. He's a center. He's 170 pounds, and he shoots from the... Nailed it. This pick is all about compete level. He's going to work just as hard away from the puck as he would on it. He doesn't hesitate to go to the dirty areas to make an impact in any way he can. He's surprisingly effective in transition for not having a lot to lean on as far as puck skill and handling talent. He's the kind of guy who does a lot well. Like, he's good at a lot, but he doesn't do anything great. Probably a long shot to make the NHL, honestly. Probably ends up being a KHL guy, but I mean, he's a 6th rounder. Who cares, right? Like, you're taking a swing on a dude who's super consistent across the board, has some offensive upside to him. But at the end of the day, there's no one thing that you can point to that you love about him outside of the fact that he competes wicked hard. And what I really love about a pick like this is he competes wicked hard when he's away from the puck. That is something that even when you talk about those dogged performers at the NHL level, the ones who chase you around all over the ice and all that good stuff, there are players who still have that dog kind of description who, when the puck's not on their stick, but they're also not defending, they're kind of standing in a corner offensively. This is a guy who, if the puck's not on a stick, but they're still moving up ice, he's going to create some sort of commotion, whether that's trying to get into the dirty areas, trying to fade behind the defense for an open shot. He's going to move. I love that. It's one of my favorite things about players. You'll watch the Bruins last year, you saw almost none of it, right? When they have the puck in the offensive zone, there's a lot of staying still, a lot of stagnation, particularly on the power play. This guy will never be on an NHL power play, but he is the kind of guy to constantly be moving and looking for that next play, and I really like that. No reason not to take a swing like that so late in the rounds. I wonder, because he is so sound at so much, I am surprised that he's a 6th rounder. That seems a little farther back than he should have gone. Maybe the Russian aspect plays a little role. I was just on 2Pad Stack guest spotting with them. That should be coming out soon. Check them out. And Ace basically had said that maybe the Russian aspect of it is still holding some teams back. 6th round pick. This is exactly where you use those. So I honestly, if you're going to look at the draft as a whole, I thought the Bruins took some big swings. I did. I thought they draft positionally, they didn't get the utmost value of where their picks were. That being said, this is a great draft. This is a great draft. You potentially have gotten your next 1C out of this draft. If that's the only pick that hits, it's a great draft. You have some really interesting players behind it, particularly Moore and Simpson, in my book, are ones that are just interesting to see how they develop. And after that, you just have a couple swings. Whatever. Like, there's nobody who's going to sit there and get upset about 5th, 6th, 7th round picks anyway. Kirill Kaprizov doesn't happen all that often. 5th rounder Bruins pick. That ends up being a superstar. It's just not super common. So I feel really good about the draft. We actually, while we were on the 2-pad stack, we graded it. I gave this a grade of an A-. Hagens puts you in the A category immediately. From there, I think they took a couple leaps up the board, farther up than they should have. But so it brings you back down to an A-. But overall, there's a couple players that I'm really excited about, a couple players that I'll probably forget about in the long term. But I feel really good about this. Let me know what your favorite pick besides Hagens was. And I swear to God, if any of you are like, but Hagens is small. He's 5'11", 190. He's not tiny. He's not tiny. He can still be a very effective 1C. God, I'm so excited about this. I can't believe he fell to 7. And I've been saying this to other people. Maybe this is just at the end. I'll kind of add this in. But I've been saying this to a couple other of the guys I talked to around the whole draft and everything. But I think we saved the Islanders from themselves. They tried to trade back up to 7. Hagens was there. Sweeney went, no. Hagens was here. I'm taking him. I think if Hagens was gone, then they very likely would have taken those picks and seen what else they could do with them. But if the Islanders jumped up to 7 for Hagens, they basically would have traded Dobson for Hagens and a bottom 6 guy. Now, as great as it would be to get what I think could be a 1C, you're trading a sure thing number 1 right-handed defenseman in Dobson for a maybe 1C. That's basically the whole trade. And the number 1 right-handed defenseman is 26 years old. It feels like you could get more value for that, I guess is where I'm at. I don't know how many people actually agree with me there. But instead, they walk away with Ashawn and Eklund and feel like they got 3 real impact players for the long-term future out of this, and then we get a 1C. So I feel very good about that. Anyway, guys, that does it for me. I got to pack for the flight. That's at like 4 a.m. tomorrow. It's like 8:30 now. So you guys have a great night. I can't wait to see some of you at the dev camp. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. Go Bees. Go Bees!